Hello everyone. So we have seen enough of functions. So from today's video we will start uh, a new topic called motor controlling, right? So how you can control motors with Arduino. So why do you need motors? Okay, so motors can be used to make movement, right? So using motors you can rotate something. Let's say you are building a small robot rover, and you can use the two motors to move the rover. Or let's say you are making a small vehicle, line flow robot, and the robot should rotate or move forward using its motor. So to make movements we can use motors, right? Sorry guys. So to do that we should be able to handle the motor, right? Control the motor, right? Fine. So now the problem is, if we let's say we know about sensors, right? That means sensors are something that takes an input from something and give it to Arduino. So there is another type called actuators. That means something that takes an output from Arduino and give it to outside externally, okay, to give it to the user. For example, display. So display can take some output from Arduino and show it to the user. Okay, I mean from Arduino to user. And motors are also actuators because it is giving an output, right? That means it is giving the movement as an output. Okay, so they also come under actuators. That means if something happens, we tell the robot to move using motors. So Arduino is telling the motor rotate, so it's an output. Okay, so that's fine. So basically there are numerous types of motors, or DC motors, okay, and servo motors, okay, and stepper motors, and there are so many type of motors that can be used for different purposes. For example, if you want a vehicle to move, like car, okay, let's say you have a robot, line follower robot, and that has to move front with two wheels and two motors, and then you may need DC gear motors, okay, DC motors. Also you can say DC gear motors. Okay, so to make a movement with a wheel, okay, maybe for wheel, not always but sometimes. Let's say you want to open a gate, okay, so that is also a movement. So if some sensor input is coming, you want to open a gate, okay, in that case you may need servo motor sometimes, because a vehicle is rotating the wheel and moving forward is different from opening a gate and closing a gate. Okay, so this is a opening and closing gate means it's a linear movement. Okay, so and maybe you want to create a 3D plotter or small movements. For that you may sometimes have to use stepper motors. So different type of motors for different purposes. Here basically we will study about the DC motors, so and how we can control them, right? So for Arduino we will take some DC motors, that means some motor that works with the DC current, and there are motors that will work somewhere between 2 to 6 voltages. Okay, so from Arduino if we take some supply, so that supply of power for the motor will be somewhere around 5 voltage. So the Arduino supply voltage will be enough to control the motor, or will be enough to give power to the motor. Okay, so basically this is how we can use the motors. I mean in the initial state, okay, we can take the power from the Arduino's pin and use the motors. I mean use the power to run the motors. Okay, that is fine. So if we go, so for our learning purposes we want a small motor that can work somewhere around 5 voltage, okay, or 2 to 6 voltage. Okay, so if you go to the internet and you can search for this Arduino motor, you will see number of motors. Okay, see, so this kind of you can see my mouse cursor, right? So this motor is the most suitable one, and it's available in almost everywhere. You can buy this one. Okay, this will work in 5 voltage or 2 to 6 voltage. So you can see this here as well. You see this? Okay, nice. So there are other motors as well. So if you are good enough and if you know how to handle them, you can buy. So something like this. So this is also a DC motor. So even though if I search for Arduino motor, I am just looking on the DC gear motor. So these are DC gear motors. Okay, yes, and if you open this, and I was telling you about this servo and stepper motors. So these black color motors are servo motors, and this one, if I am correct, is called stepper motors, and these two are DC gear motors normally, if I am correct. Okay, I may be wrong sometimes, but mostly this is the correct one. Okay, so I said you DC gear motors, so maybe we will not tell as DC motor, you will say DC gear motors, servo motors, because servo motors are also that works from Arduino. Some servo motors that we connect to the Arduino also DC motors. That means the current comes from Arduino is DC current. So all the motors are DC motors. Okay, so you can say like DC gear motors. Okay, and servo motors and stepper motors. So this is for wheel connection purposes. This is maybe for opening the doors and close. This is for maybe small movements. Okay, like 3D plotters and all. Don't worry much. We will look at this now, right? So you can buy this motor from anywhere in the shop. You can search gear motor. Say okay, gear motor DC 3 to 6 voltage. You see this, right? So it might be available in eBay, Amazon, or somewhere in online shops as well, or if you have an electronic shop nearby, you may find it. Okay, so this will be most suitable. So if you take this motor, okay, you will find you have two terminals. Okay, so I will search like DC gear, Arduino motor DC gear. Let's see what happens. Okay, so the yellow motor comes. So okay, so if you take this motor, you will find we have two terminals in the motor. Okay, so you can connect wheels also with the motor, right? So how can I show proper picture to you guys so that I can show you the terminals? Let me see whether I can find a nice picture. Looks like I can't find a picture, right? Okay, let's open this. Okay, here there are two terminals in the motor, so they have connected two wires from the terminals. Okay, I'll try to open another picture. Okay, you can see, right? So it's not zoomed in, but if you zoom it, you can see there are two terminals and they have soldered two wires from the two terminals. So if you buy a motor, and you will see there are two terminals in these two locations. You can see my mouse cursor, right? The black color joining location and red color joining location, red wire joining location and black wire joining location. There are two terminals. So we take two wires from these terminals like this, and we bring it to Arduino and connect to the Arduino, and we control this motor. Okay, so if you want to connect a wheel to the motor, what you can do is you can connect a wheel to the white color part. So that means you can look at this picture, right? I will show you. Okay, look at this picture. Okay, see this there is a white color shaft that is coming out of this both sides, right? So to one side you can connect a wheel. Okay, so when you give power to the motor, this white color shaft will rotate, so the wheel will rotate. Okay, you understood? Understandable, right? So you can look at here as well. See, this white color shaft will rotate, so you connect a wheel to this white color shaft. You can connect any side of the motor. You can connect the wheel to any side of the motor. Okay, so now you understood. If you have a motor, okay, that will have two terminals, and you can connect two wires from that. Okay, and you can bring both of the wires to Arduino. This is one wire and this is one wire. Okay, so how this motor works is, normal these DC motors, we cannot say this is plus, this is negative, or we cannot say this is plus, this is negative. No such things. So in this motor we can say, let's say terminal A and terminal B. Okay, so this is B, right? This is terminal B and this is terminal A. Okay, and let's say, how do we connect these wires? So normally what we do is we take these wires and we connect one wire to +5 voltage pin of the Arduino and the other wire to ground of the Arduino. Okay, so +5 and ground, so power, like power. Then you will see the shaft, the white color shaft. Okay, I'll use the yellow one, that comes out of this motor where we connect the wheels. Okay, the shaft will rotate in some direction. We don't know which direction, but some direction it will rotate. Okay, because of the power. In case you are changing the terminals, let's say you are connecting this terminal to ground and this terminal to +5. Now what will happen? Again the shaft will rotate, but in the opposite direction of the previous one. Okay, you get it? So we will study further in the next video, guys. Follow me there.